All right, so now we'll actually move into the title of the PowerPoint. It was poverty. Of course, you know what poverty means. When you think about poverty, you're talking about being poor, not having money. Do you have money? Sure, you can still be poor and have money and stuff like that, but you're living in poverty. You're living in impoverished homes. You're living in low homes. You might be living in government housing, but you're still poor. There's different things. Yes, you may be on welfare, but poverty means you don't have enough money to basically survive. If you have enough money to survive, you are not considered poor. We'll talk about that as we move forward. According to the government, a poor family is one whose total income is less than the amount required to satisfy the family's minimum needs. Who determines the family's minimum needs? Well, the government does. They are going to be the ones to determine what amount it is that is required for a family. What does the family makeup look like? And that's where you think about, okay, well, a husband, a wife, that's a family. What is their poverty threshold? A husband, a wife, and one child. What is their threshold? A mother with one child. What is their threshold? A mother, a wife with 2 kids or 3 kids, or a divorced home with 3 or 4 kids. You know, all the different looks of what a threshold will look like for the different levels. But that's the government that will determine what the minimum needs are. What are your minimum needs? We know what the needs are. Food, water, clothing, and shelter. That's the only thing that they want to account for when it comes to this. Now, of course, they're gonna be more in there because obviously, the cell phone may or may not be a minimum need. There was a reason Obama sent phones and did the whole phone thing for them, because we live in a world, it's not a need, but it is a serious necessity in the world that we live in right now. Poverty threshold is the income level below which the income is insufficient to support a family. If you are in the poverty threshold, that means you are below the income. Okay, that is your poverty rate. The poverty threshold is everybody who is poor. You want to look at those numbers. Anything above that, of course, you are not in a poverty threshold. You're not poor. In 2002, I need to update these. Y'all were supposed to do that with your PowerPoints, but since we didn't do that because of the corona, I have to do this on my own. In 2002, the poverty threshold for a single parent under the age of 65. The age is important because your needs change as you get older. You hit 65, you're going to be looking at medical things, so the age is going to change. But this is a single parent, meaning they have a kid with one child, age 65 lower, with one child, is $12,400. 2002, you have to remember that. I think we did the numbers on it. This is somewhere around 14,000 right now. That's what they think a family of 2, a parent and a kid, can live on in America. So if you think that it was tough in the game of life, making what you were making, or if you could think about how hard it would be to live a real life, something lower than what you were making, that is the number the government determines that you are not poor. If you make this number, if you make $1 less, you're considered poor. What's the motivation there to make that extra dollar when you know how you're going to struggle through that? Family of 4, you're looking at a family of 4, that would be 2 parents, 2 children, not 1 parent, 3 kids. That's a different deal. You have to think about a family of 4 with 2 parents, 2 kids. 2 parents, 2 kids, family of 4, 2 children, $18,244. As you see there, on the addition of 2 family members adds about $6,000 on there. So about $3,000 every time you add somebody on there. Again, it'd be a little different if it was a family of 1 with 3 kids. This is a family of 4 with 2 parents, 2 kids. Family's total income is below those numbers. You see they are counted as poor. Of course, they're going to qualify for different goods, different government services, welfare, food stamps, things like that. And you qualify for that at different levels. They don't think you necessarily have to be in that, but you don't get the poorer you are, the more you get. It's just basic things. The more kids you have, the more you get to claim. Your poverty rate is the percentage of people who live in a household within that income below the official poverty threshold. So you say a question, that's everybody who lives in a household, that's your poverty rate. So what is the highest group of people who live in poverty? It's probably going to be, no, it's not probably going to be, it's going to be kids, because most households either have 2 parents and at least 2 kids. Not everyone, especially in this changing times, where maybe 2 parents and 1 kid, or a divorced household with one parent each household with 1 kid. But most of the time, you're going to have 2 kids per family. That's a pretty good average number. Of course, you got 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it happens to be. And so your children are going to be living in poverty more than your adults are. But it's because, of course, the children can't necessarily go out and get jobs. They can't provide for themselves. They're depending on their parents who are already poor, so on and so forth. So it's kind of a skewed number, but you're going to see that a stat later that children live in poverty more than adults do. Again, it's because there's usually more of them than there are adults. Poverty rates used to discover whom the government considers to be poor. and what factors contribute to poverty. What factors contribute to poverty are very important. We'll talk about that as we go forward. Because you can determine what's going to probably make you poor. It's just the facts of the matter. One of the poverty rate indicators that we'll talk about is race and ethnic origin. What does that mean? Poverty rate among African Americans and Hispanic is more than twice the rate of white Americans. Your minorities are poor more times than your whites are. It's just the facts. It is not a racist statement. It is the facts when it comes to what's going on. Is that number shifting? Sure, it's starting to look a little different in the world because the minorities there's more African Americans and Hispanics than there were in years past, especially 2002. This is an 18-year-old stat that I got to update. But you're starting to see a shift. But still, when you're looking at it, if you're in a room, if there's a room full of people, and there are 2 African Americans and 20 white people, the odds that those 2 African Americans are living in poverty are higher than those white people. Do white people live in poverty? Yes, of course they do. But we're talking about odds. We're looking at statistics, and we're looking at the amount of people. You're also going to see that most African Americans that live in the South are going to be the highest number because there's not as many in other states. That's just facts. These are just statistics. And different things. In bigger cities, there's going to be a higher poverty rate, things like that. So race, ethnic origin is going to be one. If I want to tell you, I said, hey, tell me something that you can tell about somebody who's probably poor. If you look into a room, the race, if they are a minority, they probably are living in poverty, or the odds are they're in poverty. The type of family. Families with a single mother have a poverty rate almost 6 times greater than 2 parents of families. Why is that the case? Because a woman realistically makes less money than a man. That is the stat. That is the facts. Is that changing? Of course that's changing. That's something that's switching over time, but it's still a true thing. A man typically makes more than a woman. So a single mother with children is more likely going to be living in poverty than a single male, or of course obviously a 2-person household. Can a 2-parent household be living in poverty? Of course they can. Can the man with kids be living in poverty? Of course they can. We're looking at statistics. We're saying that more times than not, if you are a single mother, you're probably going to be living in poverty. That's not every one of them. I hope that makes sense. I hope you understand that. And I will probably say it time and time again. Age, the percentage of children living in poverty is larger in the age group. Young adults make up the next largest group in this category. So talking about before, the younger you are, the more likely to live in poverty. Why? Because it's hard to get a good job if you're younger. If you're children, you obviously don't have a job because child labor laws in America have ruined this country. Ron Swanson. But you're looking at the younger you are, the more likely you are to live in poverty because you're living with poorer families, you're living with multiple families, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of reasons why the younger ones, younger children, younger adults are going to be living in poverty. So if you're looking in a room full of old people and young people who like living in poverty, the young person is. Where that person lives. People who live in the inner city have double the poverty rate of those who live outside the inner city. People who live in rural areas also have a higher poverty rate, especially in regions where job prospects are limited. Hard to wrap your mind around that because of the size of Starkville. But if you look at the inner city of Starkville, there's going to be more poverty there. The further you get out into the country, there's going to be more poverty there because there are fewer jobs out there. Now again, you can drive from Sturgis to here in 15 minutes. You can catch a ride with somebody coming here. It's a lot different in this area because this is not a true city when you start looking at this. But you go to New York, you go to Chicago, you go to LA, you go to some major city, Atlanta, a major city, and the inner city is going to be poor because it's going to take you 15 minutes to get to the next place that might possibly have a job, and those jobs are filled by the people living in that area, the next area in, and then of course the people in the country who can't come in because it's 30, 45 minutes, an hour, something like that. And you have to understand the vastness and size of a city like that to understand how you can live in poverty in the middle of a city. Yes, it still exists in Starkville in the inner city because you have inner city, you have the city, you have the suburbs, you have the country. Okay, and the country and the inner city are going to have more likely to poverty because, of course, your suburbs are going to be your established families. The people in the city are willing to pay more to live there, therefore they probably make more money. It's just the facts. It is how it is in every city. That's just the diagram that exists. So your residents, if I said, where do you live? Well, I live in the ghetto. So you're probably more likely to be poor than the person who lives in a suburb. It's just the facts. It's statistics. It's a poverty rate indicator.